Hello all and good evening and welcome to Friday Night Live. This is an extra show that I have for you all here in the Honing Block. Usually we only have our Tuesday Night Live show and we have our show on a Thursday as well. But we've got a bonus session for you today. I'm excited about today's session. I hope you are too. This session is brought to you in partnership with UK Black Tech. And we have some amazing, incredible guests with me tonight, and we're going to be talking about the future of social enterprise. We're going to be talking about what social enterprise is and what the future holds based on the times that we're in right now. Now, I'm not going to waste any time. I want to get straight into it, but I want to show you a brief clip of the 4 people that we're going to be talking to tonight so that you know and have a taste of what we have in store for tonight's show.
Career Ear, which enables young people to basically directly ask professionals career-related questions.
Over the last 4 years, Xuntos has been able to support and equip people with the skills that they need to work in the tech industry that they might not necessarily get from studying.
How do we manage to get so many of these young entrepreneurs engaged and passionate about what they do?
They helped me with my business and how I could get it out there.
I've attended a few of them and I think they're quite helpful for preparing my business and knowing what to do and the certain action steps that I have to take to give my business that push forward.
Your Future Ambition was founded to educate, inspire and encourage young people from the age of 7 up to graduate age into STEAM careers.
So, are you excited for tonight's show? I am certainly excited. We have none other than Claudine, Olu, Julian and Dr. Rashada joining us for tonight's show. So I'm going to introduce the first guest. I don't want to waste any more time. So the first guest is Claudine Adeyemi. Now, Claudine in 2015 was listed in the Property Week's top 40 under 40. She was noted as highly commended as Junior Lawyer of the Year in the Law Society's Excellence Awards in 2015. She was recognized as a rising star in the We Are the City Awards in 2016. She was a finalist in the National Diversity Awards in 2016. She's also the Black British Business Awards finalist in 2016 and on the Power List of 2017. Shall I continue? Yes, I will, because she was listed in the Digital Leaders DL100 list in 2017 in the Rising Star category of the UK Social Mobility Awards of 2017, ranked in the 2017 Empower Top 30 Ethnic Minority Future Leaders list presented by the Financial Times, and by May of 2018, Claudine was named #1 on that same list. Claudine was also named in the Bromwell Magazine One to Watch 2018. Claudine Adeyemi is joining us. First of all, let's welcome her to the show. Good evening, Claudine. How are you?
I am overwhelmed by that introduction. But other than that, all good.
Do you know what? You should be very proud of that introduction because, my goodness, that is a list of credentials. That is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself. So who is Claudine? Who is Claudine Adeyemi? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as everyone's probably gleaned from that introduction, I'm a lawyer as well as a social entrepreneur. So started out in private practice at a law firm in the city. And whilst I was there, that's kind of where I started my business career. Before that, I was running a non-profit organization as well called the Student Development Company. I'm someone that is incredibly passionate about helping people to develop their skills and achieve their full potential. And that's what we're trying to achieve with Career, which is a site which really kind of empowers individuals, whether those are young people thinking about their first career or adults thinking about their kind of next career move, to make informed choices about their careers. And the way that we do that is through community, so enabling career seekers to ask questions to other individuals from a range of different industries, as well as kind of exploring content and things. And we've recently received some funding from the Department for Education and Nesta to integrate labour market information into our platform as well, so that people are really able to make accurate decisions about their futures. But that's career. But yeah, in terms of me, lawyer and social entrepreneur.
Fantastic. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And we're going to have you back in a few moments after we've introduced all the guests, and we're going to get into the discussion. But thank you so much for introducing yourself. My. So who is up next? Well, it is none other than Ola Otaiku. Now, Ola graduated with a first-class honors in computer science degree from the University of Hull. He's been working as a software engineer for Sky UK, building and maintaining Sky's flagship digital products, including Now TV, which of course is used by millions of customers across Europe. He's currently working on the US integration of Sky to NBCU. He also founded Xuntos in 2016 with two of his fellow students, which provides the community of people from historically underrepresented groups with details on new jobs and opportunities and advice on how to get ahead in the tech industry. And he's also a guest lecturer at Hertfordshire University. I am very happy to welcome Ola Otaiku. How are you, sir?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I am well. You look like you're cozy there. You're in a car, right?
Yes, it's a bit loud in the house, so I've ended up moving into the vehicle.
Excellent. That is brilliant. That's dedication for you. That is dedication. I love it. You come out into the vehicle. Tell us a little bit about yourself and who is Ola Otaiku? Let everybody know who you are.
Pretty much said it all, but I like to have fun and I like to work hard and play hard as well. I'm also passionate about giving back to others and helping people who, I could see them being in the same shoes as me and could do with the help and the support. I love all things technology, anything to do with computers and tech. If you call my name, I'm there. If you don't call my name, I'm still there as well. I'm also one of the founders of Xuntos, which is a community for underrepresented groups in tech. And over the last 4 years, we've been able to support hundreds of students and graduates and people pursuing careers in tech through helping them apply for work, through helping them to develop their skills, and also supporting them on their academic studies. And like you said, I also work as a software engineer. That's my 9 to 5. And in the last 2 years, I've been able to work on some very big projects. We've recently just launched a new streaming platform from the States, which came out. The full release was July the 15th, which is now out and serving millions of customers.
Wow.
So it's been quite fun working on these projects and also supporting people within tech at the same time.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Thank you so much for that introduction. Again, we're going to come back to you in a moment when we get into the discussion with all our guests. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in a moment. This is a treat for me. This is a real treat for me because those of you who watch my show, you know that I usually interview one person at a time. There's only once that I've done a panel with 4 guests, including Mark Martin, Ronaldo Lawrence. But today, I love these sessions. And I'm not going to waste any more time. The next guest that we have is none other than Dr. Rashada Harry. Now, she is recognized as one of the UK's top 100 ethnic minority leaders, according to Empower and Yahoo in 2019. She is the most recognized for her thoughts on diversity in the workplace, employee engagement, and helping the next generation of talent reach their potential. She is an enterprise technologist at Amazon Web Services, AWS in the UK, for those of you who know about AWS. And prior to joining AWS, she spent 9 years at Cisco, and she joined as the only Black female on a highly competitive sales academy program, which spanned across Europe. And she was selected as one of the top 10 graduates in the UK from over 8,000 applicants. And it was during this program that she believed more needed to be done is to bring more diverse talent into the technology industry. And because of that, she founded Your Future, Your Ambition, which is a STEM initiative in 2012. This is none other than Dr. Rashada Harry. Thank you so much for joining us. Rashada, how are you this evening?
I'm well, thank you, and thank you for the kind introduction. That was really lovely, actually. Nice to hear it back. Sometimes you kind of forget it's been so long since I graduated, but yes.
It's amazing. You know,
the
the funny thing is, you know, one thing I do realize and notice is that people don't often celebrate us, and we don't often celebrate ourselves because it's our life. We just carry on living it, right? So I'm glad to remind you of all the things that you've achieved, because it's definitely well worth shouting about and talking about. But tell us a little bit about yourself beyond what I've just mentioned, and just let people know who you are, please.
Sure. So Rashada Harry, similar to Claudine, I also read law at university before entering the technology industry. I felt that gave me good foundational insight into a career in tech. But what I didn't realize is that a career in technology would be so non-diverse from a Black perspective and from a female perspective. And so for me, it was really important to make sure that I not only work to kind of inspire myself and help myself to move forward in my career, but I can also help the people from Thornton Heath, which is where I grew up in South London, to realise their potential and also understand the opportunities about a career in science, technology, engineering, the arts, and also maths, so STEAM as it's now commonly known. So as you mentioned earlier, I now lead Your Future, Your Ambition alongside my day job at Amazon Web Services, where I am an enterprise technologist, talking to a lot of clients around cloud technology. But Your Future Ambition is really focused and aimed at educating, inspiring and encouraging young people from the age of 7 right up to graduate age into careers in STEAM, and also meeting the role models within the industry in organisations that are looking to engage and bring in that talent to their companies.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. My goodness, I'm really looking forward to the discussion. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm going to bring you back in a few moments, and we'll see you soon. Oh my goodness me. Right. Okay, guys. Last but certainly not least, I'm going to bring in our final guest panelist, which is Mr. Julian Hall. What can we say about Julian Hall? Well, he is an entrepreneur. He's an educator. He's a public speaker, he's a technologist, he's an author, and he is an influencer. He's founder and CEO of Ultra Education, whose vision is that all children and young people, regardless of their background and social standing, have access to essential entrepreneurial education. He is also the #1 best-selling author of 3 books, Entrepreneur to Ultrapreneur, 100 Ways to Up Your Game, Ignition, how to start up a tech startup, and the 10 Secrets of Social Media Marketing, the no-nonsense guide to small business. Julian is a regular contributor to the Express national newspaper and frequent media commentator. I am very, very happy and privileged to introduce to you all Mr. Julian Hall. How are you, sir? Welcome.
Very well. Thank you for having me this evening.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. Please tell us a little bit about yourself beyond what I've just mentioned. What is an entrepreneur? Who is Julian Hall? Tell us a bit about yourself.
So I was born in northwest London in a place called Harleston. And statistically, being a boy of Caribbean heritage, my life chances would have been quite low. So even today, boys of Caribbean heritage in Brent perform the lowest in the country for lots of reasons, which we can talk about another time. And I was one of those boys, but I believe having an early intervention with entrepreneurship when I was 18 enabled me to develop a mindset and some skills that I've used to navigate the rest of my life. You know, I've had a career in investment banking without having, you know, a university degree. I've set up a number of businesses. I set up and run the first Black-owned digital agency in Shoreditch. I've traveled the world telling my story and trying to inspire other people that, you know, using technology and using entrepreneurship, those things are possible. And then more recently, in the last 5 years, I had a growing compulsion to narrow the gap between employability and education, because I saw that young people were still taught a very, very old, tired way of business and entrepreneurship. And actually, the growing ambition for young people to want to become entrepreneurs wasn't being met by the educational system. So I decided to set up a social enterprise whose mission was to transform the lives of children starting from 7 years old. So we're one of the very few organizations that go that young when it comes to enterprise and entrepreneurship, and to use entrepreneurship as a vehicle to build their life skills, to give them that entrepreneurial edge, that entrepreneurial mindset, and to help them to navigate some of the disadvantage which many of them face, because we work with children and families from the most tough boroughs of the UK, and we operate between London and Birmingham. So as you said in the intro, my mission is to ensure that all children have access to effective entrepreneurial education, because at the moment it's quite difficult. But my vision is that across the UK, in the same way they can access maths and English, they should be able to access an effective entrepreneurial education as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. You know, I love the values. I love the story. I love just the drive and the different things you've been through. And you know what? I can't wait to get into this conversation tonight. Thank you so much for sharing that, Julian. I'm going to leave you here and I'm going to bring in everybody else. So I'm going to bring back Claudine. Hey, Claudine. And I'm going to bring back Rashada. And I'm going to bring back Ola. So let's get into this discussion tonight, because the topic for tonight is the future of social enterprise. Now, what I want to ask, first of all, first question is, there are a lot of people that may be watching that maybe they're not too sure about what a social enterprise is. So in your own words, what do you believe a social enterprise is? How is it different from just setting up another business? And go ahead, any of you, feel free to share your thoughts on that.
I think for me, a social enterprise is a business that's been set up just to be able to give back to people, and not set up purely for profit, but with a social cause to help people and to advance other people.
Yeah, I think just to kind of build on that a bit, in my experience, and I think there's definitely been some tensions over the years as to actually what the definition of a social enterprise is, especially when you kind of had entities known as, say, for example, community interest companies come out, and then kind of the discussion around non-profits versus social enterprise and things like that. I think for me, it's really focused on sustainable businesses, so actual businesses that do generate a profit, but that exist to basically be reinvesting that profit or part of those profits back into the further development of the community and the beneficiaries that you're trying to support. So that's kind of how I guess just define social enterprise. I don't know if anyone else has got any other views.
Yeah, for me, one of the go, Rashad. Yeah, for me, one of the values in a social enterprise is that it has a mission to, as Ola said, to help other people, and that's part of how they recognize their value. So a normal for-profit business would recognize its value in how much profit and turnover it's making, but with a social enterprise, part of its value is the impact of people's lives, how much change are they making in society, and how much impact are they creating, how much positive impact they're creating, as well as being able to generate revenue. So as Claudine said, they can sustain themselves.
And just to add to that, finally, the impact is not just at a societal level, it's at a commercial level as well, it's at a professional level, it's at an individual level. So, you know, certainly the work that all of us are doing in our respective organisations, we're doing it with a view to helping individuals for the long term, not just for the here and now. And it's provide them with skills that are going to be long-standing to helping them in their careers, that they can also help other people. So it's about a journey of impact, not just the here and now. To add to that.
Brilliant. So that goes towards legacy, right? And I think for me personally, I guess my simple definition is, I guess, business people who are trying to do themselves out of a job because they're trying to make an impact. So the work that you're doing, you are essentially working so that you don't ever have to fulfill this need again in the future. And on that point of impact, in your various businesses and the enterprises that you're running, what does that impact look like? And what is the end game? As I said, you know, but that place in which you've done yourself out of a job because that is no longer needed. And is that possible? Do you feel you're in an area that there's always going to be a need? Or do you feel, actually, no, there is a specific end game and I will stop once this is achieved? So it's kind of a double-barreled question there. So what impact and what do you feel is the end of your specific ventures?
Maybe I can start with that one. I don't think I'll ever stop doing this. I think the purpose of Your Future Ambition is to educate, equip, inspire, and encourage young people to realise their potential and to see representations of themselves in organisations that they would aspire to work within the science, tech, engineering, the arts and maths industry. So for me, the end result really is to see representations of people from Thornton Heath and people that look like me and people from, lots of diverse backgrounds represented in organisations at all levels of the management chain who have influence and have a seat at the table, but are also helping other people to have that diverse and inclusive environment. I think that's going to be a very long journey to be on, but it's one that's going to be continuously evolving depending on the industry you're in. Personally, I work in technology now, and I think that's constantly changing, and they're constantly looking for new skills. So I think it's actually something that's going to evolve over time, as opposed to have an end goal and a defining moment of that's it. We've kind of ticked the box and we've done our job.
I think for us, well, I think generally speaking, I think that holy grail of working towards the day when organisations like ours doesn't need to exist anymore is great. But not that optimistic that that's actually going to happen, because of the nature of the beast, the nature of the way society is set up, and how structural some of these problems really are. So for us, our kind of overall ambition is to really get to a place where, throughout the world, everyone, no matter who you are, what background you come from, has the opportunity to fulfill their career potential. That's a massive, ambitious vision, which I don't see being achieved in my lifetime. I really hope that through the work that we do and by executing against our theory of change, we can kind of make headway towards that and change the game towards that. But I don't think it's going to be something that we can stop working towards.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, I think we Xuntos measure impact in a similar way in terms of how many young people we can help to get into tech, pursuing careers, working as software engineers, as analysts, cybersecurity experts. And as long as people go to university and as long as tech is at the forefront of the world and what we do, our work doesn't stop, because there's always room to help people develop their skills and get into these jobs and hold the places down, and also be able to, really drive innovation at the forefront and really take over in the industry as well in different spheres. And until we see a day where the office is dominated with, Black young men and women leading technology, the work does not stop.
You're on mute, Julian.
I knew that. I was just testing everyone else. Thank you, Rashada. Thank you so much. You saved me. But no, on my side, I mean, our market is kind of 3 billion children worldwide. So maybe my great-great-great-great-grandchildren will, nail it. But I think until then, we're measuring impact based on, very obvious outcomes. So, has a child set up a project? Have they learned about what even the word an entrepreneur means? But softer skills such as building their confidence, their resilience, their ability to stand up and present an idea, their ability to work as part of a team or to lead. And, when you unpack entrepreneurship, it's a bunch of skills which we're going to need for generations. So even when I used to, when I first came up with the idea of how we would get entrepreneurship into the curriculum, and it's a piece of work that we started about a year ago now, someone said to me, well, if you achieve that and, the Department for Education adopts entrepreneurship into the curriculum, then, are you out of a job? I said, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm sure I'll find something else to fix. And I think that's probably the case with all of us. Everything that we'll do, I'm sure will evolve. There will always be challenges in and around the world. There'll always be disadvantage. There'll always be an imbalance. There'll always be causes that we can direct our entrepreneurial efforts towards. And so in that regard, I think that, collectively, our work will survive for many generations, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a great point to end on regarding that, because this is the nature of entrepreneurs. They pivot, they change, they adapt. And I think this kind of leads on to my next question, because quite naturally in this environment with COVID, many businesses are being affected, many industries are being affected. And that means for a lot of social enterprises, a lot of the funding may possibly be stopped or maybe at risk, etc. So what does that mean for your individual businesses? What does that mean for your sector, the area in which you're working in? And what does that mean for the future? We're kind of turning on the news and they're talking about a potential peak, second spike. We've only just kind of opened up certain sectors that were closed before. I think the leisure industry is just about reopened just now. So if there is a second peak, what does that mean for some of those companies? Will they be able to survive? Are they going to be able to fund social enterprises? And if not, then what do you feel a solution could be? Because quite clearly, there's a need for every one of your industry, every one of your enterprises. There is a need for it. How do we keep that alive?
I'm happy to start. So we pivoted, as many companies did, towards going online. So we turned all of our workshops on Zoom, and that went really well. And for us, it was about responding to the need of our beneficiaries, who are parents and children. And we knew that during lockdown, everyone was pulling their hair out, and anything that parents could do to put some kind of meaningful engagement in front of their kids was going to be of value. So actually, we've never been busier, in fact, and some people have regarded this as pandemic proof, for which we're really fortunate. But what it does mean is that we've had to look at, employing new technologies to be able to deliver our work, and to think about how we scale that in the future. But the irony of the funding space is that there have been funds which have been set up specifically to respond to COVID-19, which is great. I mean, there seems to be a new type of fund every week. However, there's an increased number of social enterprises going for that money. So, there's the landscape was a lot more competitive, and so now this is when I think entrepreneurs have really got to engage that level of innovation and differentiation to be able to exist and to make it out at the other end. The good news, however, is that there are lots of very well-known names of not necessarily social enterprises, but tech companies such as Dropbox or Slack, and those are the big names, but there are others who did very well in the last recession. So it is possible. And, in businesses that I spoke to the week lockdown happened, they asked me, what should I do? I said, solve a burning problem, find out what is keeping your beneficiaries, your customers, your clients, what's keeping them awake at night, and see if you can point your solution towards that. And people will find, a bucket of funding to be able to support you. But I think it has been a challenge, but it's not insurmountable. Again, we've been busier than ever, thankfully, just given the nature of what we do. But I know that going, into what might be the new normal, we have to adapt even more. And we're not quite sure what that looks like, but we're definitely up for the challenge.
I can go next. COVID-19 has actually allowed us to, really strip things back and just look and see what is the most important thing to us and Xuntos. And for us, it's always been the people. And as long as there's internet and technology, we've been able to move all our efforts online and deliver workshops and Instagram lives. And we've also been able to educate people through our social media platforms as well. And I think COVID-19's had an impact in a way where a lot more people have decided to try new things, pursue careers in tech. And also students have been hit quite hard in this, and the fact that they haven't been able to physically sit their exams. They've had lecturers missing, and just a whole lot of uncertainty once they graduate. So we've been able to support even more people in this time. And we actually grew across Twitter and Instagram by over 200 followers on each platform. And it just keeps on growing and growing, and we're supporting more people and able to support more people as well. But I also think at the end of the day, even if we're still able to support people, as the world is at the moment, it's a very difficult climate for people to find work. And ultimately, as much as we can support people to find opportunities, we've had to pivot and get people to create their own opportunities. whether that be working on a business idea of their own, or start meeting up with some friends to create a startup, or just offering their time and their expertise to organizations where they can as a way of giving back. But at the same time, they still have a livelihood to pursue and money to make as well. So it's a bit of a catch-22.
One of the ways that myself and the Your Future Ambition team have been dealing with this pandemic is that we've actually been talking directly with the schools and the teachers and helping to support those people, and as well as the students, in light of the current climate. To Ola's point, different skills are now going to be needed. People are now starting to reassess kind of what their career paths might look like, what opportunities are there for them. And organizations are now also finding new ways of actually reaching out to talent and reaching out to new industries and new people they wouldn't ordinarily have engaged with. So I think, you know, even though it seems like it is a global pandemic and it is a crisis, it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for reflection. It's an opportunity to kind of take a step back and look and think, as an individual student, what do I want to do with my career going forward? What skills do I want? And actually, who are the organizations I want to work with? What are they looking for? And who are the companies, like the social enterprises, who can help me get an opportunity there? So I think there's always going to be the opportunity. I think it's just a different way of working. But to Julian's point, we're all up for the challenge, I'm very much sure.
Yeah, I think just to kind of pick up on this point around opportunity, I think that's definitely been something that we've kind of taken on board as an organization. So at an organizational level, we've used the kind of the impact of COVID-19 as an opportunity to take a step back, similar, I guess, to Ola, take a step back and really kind of go back to doubling down on the value that we add for our users. And I think we were quite fortunate to kind of have the grant funding that we have, and so not necessarily having to be reliant on generating the revenue from the employers that are being impacted and having all this uncertainty. So that kind of gave us the freedom to really just work on continuing to build our platform, but also freeing up more capacity and time to be speaking to our users and making sure that everything we're doing and everything we're building is going to add the most value to them and their lives and their journey. I think as Julian and Ola mentioned, we're also seeing a rise in the number of people kind of turning to us for support. We particularly kind of focused on the piece around discovering your different options and giving you the opportunity to get advice and insights from individuals within a range of different industries. And so at the moment, because of the impact of COVID in particular, with people either out of work or actually increasingly reflecting themselves and thinking, oh my goodness, what on earth am I doing in this industry? Or why am I wasting my time in this career path when I could be doing something way more meaningful, or I'm wasting the skills that I have, or whatever that reflection is, really realizing that actually the path that they're on isn't the path they should be on, but they need more advice and need more support as to how to get onto the path that they want to pursue, or make a decision about that. So yeah, we've kind of taken that as an opportunity really to grow our platform and add more value to our users. I think the other thing I'd probably flag that I guess wasn't picked up in this question, but obviously COVID-19 and the pandemic and lockdown has coincided with the amplification and the raised awareness of racism against Black people, and that from what I've seen has been a trigger for a number of employers to start thinking about their own practices and their policies and looking inwards and realizing that they are not diverse places to work. They are not inclusive places to work, and that things do need to change. And so off the back of that, whilst at the very beginning, people were kind of very uncertain about spending money and their budgets and things like that, we're now seeing more and more companies start thinking about things from that side, and therefore wanting to do more to engage with talent from the Black community, as well as other underrepresented groups as well, to get their house in order. And again, that's, I think, going to kind of cause a spike in engagement for all of the organizations that are here today.
That's brilliant. I love this discussion. at this point, I'd like to speak to those people who are viewing and watching this show live. I know that we've got people as far as Lagos, Nigeria, that have tuned into the show. Hello to you, and hello to everybody from wherever you're watching from. If you have any questions for any of our panelists today around this issue of the future of social enterprises, please type them in the comment section, and I'll be happy to pose them on your behalf as we go on with the show. So there were a lot of things mentioned, some excellent points mentioned by each one of you. Now, I think the general gist of what is being said is relevance is directly proportional to need. So where there is a need, there is a relevance for your company, and you need to be there based on your customers, your niche, the people that you're serving. And I think that's really something to think about now, for not just you who have your social enterprises already set up, but for those people who are kind of looking at this scenario now, and there's more and more needs arising every single day. Now, what is that journey like for somebody who they're not where you are? They haven't established anything. Maybe it's just an idea in their head. How do they go from that concept to reality? What is that journey like? Is now the right time for that type of decision to be made? Should they wait until a bit later? Just from your own experience, do you feel like it's something that, right, there is no right time, just start now and here's what to do? Or is there a bit of wisdom that needs to be applied when approaching starting a social enterprise?
I can take this one. I think there isn't a right time. It all depends on the impact that you're trying to do and the needs of the people that you need to meet. I started Xuntos while I was at university, and also started UK Black Tech along with Julian and Rashada, and now Claudine whilst in university as well. And I think in the time where I was studying, growing and developing my skills, I also was able to push myself and learn as well. And I think when starting any business or project, it's always good to do it alongside other people as well, so they can take the load and the burden and also help you to spread your wings. And I think in a time like this, where there is a lot of uncertainty, you don't have much to lose, and things could even work in your favor as well.
Yeah, I think I would say, generally speaking, in business, whether it's a social enterprise or not, but particularly in our case, where there is uncertainty, I personally believe that there's opportunity. And so if you have something that you're passionate about and you see a problem that you think that you are equipped to solve, do something about it. Doesn't matter how kind of small that you start out. It's not something that means that you have to suddenly quit your job tomorrow to start to get set up. All of us have been doing things like on the side of another job or another role, or wearing different hats. So there's definitely something that you can do to get started. And I would always encourage people to get started. I think the one caveat that I would make is that, in my experience, I think that a lot of people are in positions where they do want to kind of do something. They do have a passion for a particular area and want to set something up. But I actually think there's probably a lot of value that could be achieved from joining forces with existing organizations. So I definitely think it's worth doing the research to understand which organizations are trying to achieve some of those problems that already exist, and reaching out to them to try and understand where they're at. If they need more support, can you join forces? Is there a way you can collaborate? Can you join the team before you start out from scratch? Because my goodness, starting out from scratch is not easy. And so if you can kind of add value to something that's already existing, the impact that you can maximize with the impact can be maximized much faster, in my opinion.
I think
so. Just to follow on from that, all great points. I would say that in the conversations I'm having with people who want to start something, part of the reason why they don't is because they're afraid to fail. And, they're afraid to fail because often they think, well, what are people going to think? Am I going to feel really rubbish about it all? But actually, in the tech startup world, we know that failing fast is a really good thing, and it enables you to learn. So it's really about taking the expectation out of success and what that might look like, because you know, if someone said to me 5 years ago, this is where I'd be, I could not have defined that. But what I do know, and I was speaking to a young man who wants to do some early intervention work with kids in Brent before they go into gangs, is, you know, he had all these grand ideas about the organization he wanted to create. And I said, just go and mentor one person. Just find one young person, mentor them. You don't need to think about how am I going to get into schools and how am I going to set up my organization and how about my logo and my t-shirts and this and that. You know, that gets you into that analysis paralysis zone. Just go and help one person, because what you learn from that will be immense. And you can then take that and go and help 2 people and then maybe a few more. And you build on that and you see what you've learned along the way that can help you to develop that product or that service even further. But I'm saying that to say that there's a psychology around procrastination which stops lots of people from starting anything, which says if you just do a little bit of it, that it will make it all seem okay. It won't feel as daunting. So definitely start small and then learn as you go.
I love these answers. I think one thing that comes to mind when I hear, especially a point that Claudine made and the last point that you just made, Julian, is just on your last point, there's also a fear of success, I find. Some people, it's not just a fear of failure, but actually being afraid of what it would mean if it were to succeed. And that kind of stops people as well. And on the point that you made, Claudine, regarding just joining up with somebody else, it's such a simple sentence to say out of the mouth, you know, and I would love to just kind of break that down in terms of the barriers that can often come up when people think about joining up with somebody else to do something together. Because from my experience, it might not be yours, but I noticed that people tend to want to do things in isolation because it's their thing, it's their idea. They're not really willing to share that idea. If they share the idea, they're afraid someone will steal that idea, etc., etc. The reasons go on and on and on. But I think, yes, this is great. Everything that we're mentioning is great. How does it work practically? How do people really overcome these fears of failure or fears of success? How do they actually, what steps do they take to approach someone, maybe who's already started something off, and say, hey, look, I have the same passion. I want to join up with you. Let's do something together. How do they actually do that? And I know that some of this may boil down to personality type, but I think it's worth maybe mentioning, just from your own thoughts, just some practical steps that you think people can take to actually do these things that we're talking about, actually working together, overcoming fear, or whatever the fear may be.
Yeah, I think, I mean, on the point around some of the reasons why people kind of might be nervous about this kind of thing, sharing an idea, for example. I mean, we know, I mean, we're all in the kind of tech space, and you learn that actually sharing your idea as widely as possible is the best way to do things, because that's when you get the feedback, you learn more, you fail quicker, and so on. So I would definitely encourage people to not keep their ideas too close to their chest. Ultimately, really, it's all about the execution. It's not about the idea itself. In terms of this piece around practical steps to take to join forces with someone else, I think it starts from the very basics of, well, firstly, doing the research. So actually understanding, are you, for example, have you got this grand ambition to make sure that kids as young as 7 years old, right the way up to graduate level, can experience different opportunities and technologies and be inspired at a one-day massive event? Well, guess what? Rashada Harry does that. So if you're kind of like, you've got those kind of ambitions and you can spot things that are similar, reach out. Rashada doesn't bite. None of us bite. Reach out and have those conversations. Understand, even if it's just to kind of learn about their journey, their experiences in doing that thing, but understand where their challenges are, where there might be gaps, where you might be able to join and add value in some way. It may not be as easy as you kind of joining the team. But it may well be that you have something that's similar, maybe it's in a different location, or maybe it's something where you can kind of cross-refer. There's loads of different ways to collaborate, but until you have that initial conversation to actually learn more about what's actually going on in the market currently, who the personalities are, what they do, what they're trying to achieve, you never get to that point. And I think for me, it's always been a personal belief, but also one of Career's core values, that without collaboration, we just don't achieve the impact that we actually want to achieve. And if we're in it for the right reasons, we'd work together.
And sorry, just to interject on that point, because again, back to this whole what is out there, what are people already doing, and how can I join it? What I tend to find, and maybe I'm coming from the cynical perspective, but a lot of people kind of look and see, right, who's got the most followers? I need that type of followers. I need that amount of followers. And that's really the basis on which people will approach someone else, as opposed to what you're suggesting, which is, how can this be mutually beneficial? What is the best way that we could share contacts, and thinking from the giving perspective as opposed to the getting perspective. So I just wanted to throw that out there just as a consideration for the responses that come next.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think what it boils down to is about supporting each other. I appreciate there's going to be people who have been in their environment a lot longer, and you might be starting out and you think, well, what can I bring to the table? But actually, you can bring a lot to the table. You can bring a different perspective. You can also offer advice. You can volunteer in that organization. So, you know, that organization you're hoping to reach out to might have millions of followers or a million reach, and you've only got one person. But actually, you can volunteer your time, you can give back, you can sit on the board of that organization, and you can help and collaborate. I think to Claudine's point about collaborating, absolutely. Career has come to, and Student Development Company have come to YFYA, and they've been a part of our day, and I'm open very much to doing that, because I personally work on the premise that I have two hands, one to help myself and one to help another organization. I think that's the crux of it. It's about supporting each other and having that trust and building those allies and building those relationships, and actually recommending each other as well. So where you have a good working relationship and you know something works well, absolutely scream and shout about that other organization. Talk about it, talk about what they're doing, because guess what? We all have got platforms, we all know different people, and the message will carry across. Another point I wanted to kind of raise in terms of collaborating, you know, there's two types of people in this world. There's clock builders and there's time tellers, right? And you know, when you're kind of collaborating with two people, you need to understand what skill set you have and what skill set the other person has. And it's about being in constant communication and being on the same page with that individual if you were to come together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you know what? At least you are understanding where your skill set is and where the other person's skill set is. But most importantly, I always say this, is do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't do it, raise your hand up early. Say, do you know what? I can't commit to that, but I'd like to, you know, say early that I can't. And actually, can we now do it together, because I'm finding it difficult. If you can't do something that you committed to, put your hand up and say so. Don't just, you know, brush it under the carpet and hope it will go away, because people are relying on you, and that's what builds trust. And I think trust is what's going to make us as a community come together. And that's definitely what we see in UK Black Tech. We've all come together from various, you know, backgrounds, different areas and different walks of life. We've all come together with a core purpose, because we're all committed and we're all going to do what we say we're going to do.
Just to add onto the back of what Claudine and Rashada have said, I think it's all about having an aligned common vision and goal when collaborating as well. Because when you see things with the same pair of spectacles and are aligned in your thoughts, how you go around to actually implement these changes will be aligned as well. And, you know, once you always have that core vision and goal, even if things may differ from that, when you're working with someone else, you always have the main goal and purpose in mind. And that even makes the collaboration stronger as well. And the fact that you can relate with somebody as well to do something helps a lot as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we teach entrepreneurship to kids, and we'll have 10-year-olds saying, I don't want to write a book about lions because someone else is going to write a book about lions. And our response to that, I mean, this is like a true story, right? And our response to that is, well, you're unique and you're special. And if someone else writes a book about lions, it won't be the same story. They won't have the same illustrations. They won't have the same characters. It won't look the same. It won't feel the same. And that's because your product is a reflection of you. And so, you know, that gives them a sense of empowerment that actually I have something to offer. And for those people who, because I've heard this for so many years, that I don't want to share my ideas because someone's going to steal it. All right, let's just pull on that thread. If someone steals your idea and they do it better than you, that's probably a good thing, right? And you should probably go and rethink what you're trying to do or compete. It's not a bad thing. You know, the fact is, I think what we do is better than anyone else, right? And then people say, oh, but what if another organization with loads of money comes into your sector? That's great, because the more competitors you have in the market, it grows the entire market, right? So these aren't bad things. When I hear people say that, it's an excuse not to start. It's part of the psychology of procrastination, giving yourself a reason not to do something. It's part of the fear that I spoke about earlier on. And in terms of finding someone to do a business with, if anyone has a co-founder, you'll know it's a bit like a relationship, a lot like a relationship. In fact, some people spend more time with their business partners than they do their life partners, right? I mean, it's really happens. It really happens. But, you know, what you've got to do is, there was a businessman that I worked with a few years ago, and he said that he was sick and tired of going into business relationships and things not working out for the long term. So what he did was, if he saw that there was a new relationship on the horizon, he would just commit to doing one thing with that person. Let's do a podcast, a webinar, an Instagram live. Let's write a chapter in a book. Let's do one event. And from that one thing, you will learn loads about people, right? By doing that one thing. And if it works well, try something else. You don't need to put a ring on the finger immediately after that. You can, you know, just keep building the relationship as you would any other relationship. And don't just bring someone on board for the sake of bringing them on board. Bring them on board because you've recognized that there's a skills gap. There's something that you're not good at or you're really not comfortable with doing, and bring them on in that way. So, you know, we were on a We Are One Tech with that Claudine hosted, I think it was just yesterday or day before. And one of the entrepreneurs said that, you know, they feel like they need a CTO because they're not technical. And that's actually a really good reason to get a co-founder on board. However, you could start by getting an advisor. You don't necessarily need to bring someone in meaningfully into the business. You could start by getting an advisor. As Rashada said, you may be able to get someone who volunteers. So you could creep into what it looks like to have a relationship of that kind, right? You don't need to just dive into it and all of a sudden I've got a co-founder and then things don't work out and blah, blah, blah. You know, treat it as you would any other relationship, I think, and build it slowly. You might have to kiss a few frogs, but at some point it might work out.
Yeah. I did want to just add one more point, which is around the success piece and being scared of success. Osi, you touched on that a bit earlier. And what sometimes comes with that as a byproduct is imposter syndrome. It's thinking that you don't belong in the position that you're in, or that you're not capable of taking things to the next level, or you're not as good as you think you are. I think that is a byproduct of success in a lot of instances. And I think one of the ways that which a lot of people tend to caveat that and kind of overcome the imposter syndrome, because I think it happens a lot more than people care to talk about, is actually having a tribe of people around you. And that could be family, friends, people outside of your organization, your immediate circle. It could be someone completely in a different industry, but these are people that know you, know your skill sets, know your strengths, and are there to support you throughout your journey. I think imposter syndrome is something that's very debilitating. It can absolutely stop you from progressing and from taking that great idea into something, you know, global and really, you know, impacting a lot of people. And it's all about making sure you have people who can keep you grounded, keep you on your right path, and make sure that they're constantly dropping in those nuggets of inspiration to keep you going. I think that's something that we didn't quite touch on, but I think is equally as important as the failures and collaborating.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for your answers. We're due to finish at 7 o'clock. I'm happy to go on for a little bit longer if everybody's happy to stay on. I don't want to abuse your time. I know that everybody's very busy out there, but we have a few questions from the people watching. Are you happy to take some of those questions? Fantastic. Okay, so let's go to Choma, who I believe is watching from Lagos, Nigeria. We may have touched on parts of this, but let's read the question. It says, it's very easy to talk about collaboration with others, but it gets difficult when they get to compare their growth with yours. So it's about being competitors instead of in collaboration. So how do you curb that?
Don't work with them.
I was just going to say, it comes back to the point we were talking about with personalities. If that doesn't sound like the right person that you should be collaborating
Yeah,
with.
and if you see that early, I mean, just kick it to the curb. You don't have to entertain it, no matter how great they are. And this is the other thing. You could find the best CTO in the world or the best CFO, whatever. If you don't get on with them, don't do it. It doesn't matter how great they are, right? There's always someone else. And it is about chemistry. It is about finding someone who's right for you. But, you know, I mean, that dynamic just sounds like a battle of egos. And at some point, you know, it's not that that won't happen. But if that doesn't die down and you kind of find a level where you can both play nicely and focus on the thing that you're trying to achieve, then just don't work with them.
Yeah.
I think just really. Oh, sorry, go on, Rashada.
No, I was going to say, but know within yourself when to walk away. You know, dripping water wears a stone in terms of your confidence. If someone's constantly, you're in competition with them, you know, dripping water can wear the confidence of you. So you have to know for yourself when to walk away and to make a decisive decision, but learn from the experience and move forward as quickly as possible. And don't let it impact you long term. Sorry, Claudine, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. I was just going to say, going back to that point that I think Julian made earlier about the co-founder relationship almost kind of being like a marriage. Treat it like that. So you wouldn't most people wouldn't on day one meet someone and then get married, right? So treat it in that same way. Take some time to actually get to know that individual and go with your gut. If it doesn't feel right, honestly, as a lawyer with a background of dealing with disputes, it comes from people being not being in the right relationships in the first place. So go with your gut. If you're in a situation where you can feel that it doesn't sit right with you, and you haven't got the right synergies, walk away.
Excellent. I'm going to bring in a couple more questions, and we're going to aim to finish on time. We have quite a few comments here commending and thanking you all for the advice given. We have a question here from, I think that's Foxter. It says, how can those volunteer organizations best reach out to those people with opportunities? So how can they reach out to those people with opportunities? So this is from the perspective of the actual organization.
I think it's all about showing what you have to offer and what impact they can take from this as well, and how you serving them and giving your time and other people within your organization, sacrificing their time, effort, and resources for the betterment of the people with the opportunities. And once you can highlight to them how you're able to support them and not what you're wanting to take away from them, a lot of the times they're more open to working and collaborating.
Yeah, I would just add, I guess, similar to that, in my experience, what we've done in the past when we've had volunteers, and actually, to be fair, with staff as well, we've always made sure that we are giving something back. And usually, because we're careers, that's around kind of a development and mentoring program, check-ins, and making sure that we understand what their career ambitions are and that we're building in things to help them get to that point. Even that if that's kind of outside of and completely separate to our organization. And so we definitely kind of frame things from that perspective and making sure that we're building roles that meet their needs, if that makes sense. In terms of physically reaching out to them, there are a number of different platforms. I know a couple of unfortunately shut down, like The Inspired and things like that, but there are still a few platforms out there that host volunteer opportunities in particular. So organizations should be looking at signing up to those platforms so that they can access people who are willing to volunteer.
Yeah. And in being a volunteer, just one thing to add, it's really important to make sure that the activity you're going to do is also going to push you and help develop you. So one of the things that we always encourage the volunteers that come to YFYA is that, put egos aside. You're here to inspire young people, and actually you might learn something from the young people yourself. So, any kind of volunteering exercise or opportunity, make sure you're going in there with an open slate and with an opportunity to both learn and also inspire other people.
That's brilliant. I love that. And I actually went to YFYA. That's where we met Rashada as well. I was blown away. And quite literally, it is one of those things where if you go in there thinking you are somebody, very quickly you will realize you are not, because there are so many other somebodies out there. And literally, it's just about giving. It really is. I really enjoyed that day.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take one more question and then we're going to wrap up. And this final question comes from Paul Morrison. And he's saying, hello, all, amazing points raised. How do we all work closer together as a collective to reach a common goal? I also see the incredible support Rashada receives with YFYA. What else can we do to help?
Scream about it. Talk about it.
To say that,
Yeah.
I mean, well, we're already working together. So, you know, I know this wasn't the case maybe a decade ago, but over the last few years, loads of us are working together. I mean, the four squares you see on this screen, we work together all the time, right? So I think it's just about joining groups that already have some kind of momentum, working with people who maybe already are plugged into, you know, to other groups that have something meaningful going on and not having to recreate the wheel, and supporting initiatives and organizations that are already out there. That's probably one of the best ways. And so, you know, ways that we can help. The platform Kwanda is doing their best to support all four of our organizations. And a big thank you to Mark Martin, MBE of UK Black Tech, for helping to put this together, because we all are not, you know, social enterprises. A lot of the work we do comes from our ability to raise money so we can help those who need it the most. And that's a really direct way that you can help. And if you can't do that, then a like or a retweet also goes a long way. And just, you know, I get words of, you know, gratitude and kindness all the time, and I really appreciate it, because it's difficult to do what we do, but to hear, you know, to get a tweet or a Facebook message saying, look, you know, love what you're doing, keep it up. I mean, sometimes that can make your day. So even if it's just a random act of kindness, or whether it's you supporting the funding campaign that we've got at the moment on Kwanda, all of that is very, very much appreciated.
Yeah. I can't echo that enough. I think, you know, to kind of the points that were raised earlier, you know, a lot of us aren't doing this just independently. We're doing it in addition to day jobs. We do it in our spare time because we're all really passionate about making a difference. And we would do it continuously, and probably until the day we each die, just to make sure that we're having that impact and we're actually providing a lasting legacy of change, because we want to see that difference. And you know, I think I'll kind of close by saying that, you know, it takes a village to raise an opportunity, raise a child, raise a community, and that's what we're all about. We're all about collaboration, we're all about supporting each other. We're all about speaking about our successes, but also supporting when there's failures, right? And guiding and giving advice and encouragement along the way. And I think, you know, to Julian's point, you know, we are supported by donations, all of us, and we all are very, very grateful. So even if you can't support financially, it would be great if you could. If you can't, that message, that retweet, that kind of text message or that email to the teams to say thank you, or to say, look, this is how you've helped me, or this is who I've told about you, goes an absolute long way in helping keeping us motivated when we often get tired. So yes, thank you for that.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for everything that you have shared. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your insights. I want you to just 30 seconds each, one last point just to leave our audience with on this topic of social enterprise, the future of social enterprises, or even just a bit more on what it is that you do, because I know some people joined at different times. So it's up to you how you leave us. I'm going to bring you on one at a time in the same way that I brought you on. So I'm going to start with Claudine. Let's start with Claudine. So Claudine, what is your last thought you want to leave with everybody today? Off you go.
Oh, I thought I'd be last because I was still thinking about it. But I think the point I would leave off on is just to reiterate one from before, which is that there are so many problems that need to be solved, particularly social problems and things that are going to have a massive impact on people's lives, on the planet, on our environment. And if there is something that you are passionate about and there's a problem that you have identified in your community, no matter how small, I implore you to do something about it. Whether that is reaching out to another organization that's already doing some stuff in that space to collaborate, or whether that's starting up with something small by yourself, just do something. That's what I'd like to leave you guys with today.
Excellent. And thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights. Thank you, Claudine.
Thanks, Osi.
Okay, I'm going to bring back Ola to share his final thoughts as well. So Ola, what are your thoughts that you want to leave with everybody from today's session?
My final thoughts would be that there's strength in numbers, that, you know, in order to do something like Rashada it takes a village to raise a child. And when a lot of us can come together to bring about change, we really see a huge impact. Xuntos is all about community and doing things together with people and supporting people with their careers in tech. And there's many ways you can help us, whether that be donating to Kwanda, or liking and sharing and engaging with our content on social media. Or perhaps your company is looking for, you know, a developer or an analyst or a UX UI designer who would like to connect the people in our community with your opportunities and help you out as well as we help people out to find work. Thank you. Let's get Xuntos.
Thank you so much. And can I just commend you personally? Let me see if my sound effects work. There we go. Okay, so yeah, I'm commending you. The reason why is because you've sat in your car the whole time. Now, anybody with a keen eye will notice how hot and sweaty I was getting at the beginning. You're locked in a car. It's a hot day today, so I appreciate your perseverance in joining us. But thank you so much, Ola. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to bring back on Dr. Rashada. She is going to share her final thoughts with everybody. Rashada, thank you so much for everything you've shared. Please leave us with your final thoughts.
Yes, I think, you know, always ask yourself what you can do to support the next generation or your community or your society. You know, you never know what impact you as a one individual can have and who you can inspire, who can then inspire someone else. You know, the journey is never going to be straight line. There's always going to be different ways of getting to the same destination, but don't let a stumble in your journey be the end of the road. Make sure that you talk about it. Make sure you share your challenges, share your successes, and collaborate with others. YFYA was born on the premise that it takes a village to raise a child, and so we always rely on volunteers and organisations who want to come together to join efforts with us to make a difference. If you're one of those people, if you're one of those organisations and you'd like to collaborate with us, please do get in touch. We've got our event coming up, our digital event coming up in November, on the 12th of November in London. So please, you know, feel free to reach out and we'll be happy to have you join us on the journey as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rashada, for joining us. Thank you for everything that you shared. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and again, last but not least, I'm going to bring back Mr. Julian Hall, and he's going to share his final thoughts. So, Julian, what are your thoughts that you want to leave with everybody from today's session?
So we believe that entrepreneurship is one of the greatest opportunities for young people today, because 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't accessible because of cost or finance or networks. But now young people are able to access entrepreneurial education, and they're doing it in ways that us grown-ups wouldn't have anticipated. And I'd like to say that in supporting the generation, don't underestimate them. Just this week, we had one of our 15-year-old entrepreneurs who's been with us for a few years, and he's been running a Zoom boot camp for 50 kids on his own for an hour a day early on in the week. And nobody would have thought that was possible, but he's done it. And he's a great example. And there are many, many others of you know, when we talk about kids, you know, reaching their potential, we can see that happening in front of us. But what we've got to do as adults who are supporting that next generation is not to cast our limiting beliefs on what's possible and let them take that baton and run with it. Because for me, part of the future of social enterprise is for it to be more representative. I personally don't know, there may be some, but I personally don't know any national social enterprises or charities that are founded and led by somebody Black. But I think that that may come out of the young people that the organizations which are on this call are supporting. And so I think that doing that will give us a greater diversity of thought around the problems that exist around the UK, because for the last 20 or so years, we've had organizations solving problems, not really understanding them, but we're here, we're working hard, and you can find out more about what we do at Ultra Education by just Googling us or looking us up on social media at Ultra Education. We're also running the world's first kids online business fair at the end of next month online, and that's going to be the last couple of weekends, so you can look that up as well, and we'll be happy to invite you onto that. And yeah, for us, the future's bright. And again, just to thank UK Black Tech and yourself, Osi for putting this together.
Excellent, Julian. Thank you so much again for all your words of wisdom and your contributions during today's session. Good luck in everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, good people. My goodness me. I hope that you have enjoyed today's session. It has been amazing. I'm going to give a round of applause to all of the panelists from tonight. Everything that they've shared has been fantastic. I know that there are people out there that are going to be inspired to take action, and that is what I want you all to do. Now, there are so many ways that you can support. You've heard from each one of them. They've all got their own websites, but one thing that they have as a goal right now is to actually raise £20,000. So you can see the link there at the bottom is for their Quanda page. Please visit that page and help them to reach their target of £20,000. That will help boost their organizations, and it will help to make an impact in the lives of the people that they are serving. Good people. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm so glad that you were able to join us. Take care. Have yourselves a good night, and tune in next time in the honing block for Edgewood Education. And if you're here from UK Black Tech, follow them too and tune in for their next events. Guys, take care. Have yourselves a blessed weekend, and we'll see you next time on Tuesday Night Live. Take care. See you next time.